building's this height.
Yes.
Except where we put the door in, and it's just a bit lower, a bit lower. So I'll try to remind you.
6'3".
It looks alright.
It looks alright. Yeah.
So here we are in the Downs Junior School air raid shelter, built in 1939. At the time, this was the infant school. And this was used for reception year 1, year 2 children. So this is children between 4 and 7. This would be the school. As we go around, we've kind of themed different areas for when we do school tours. This first area is kind of a theme of evacuation, but later on there's some pictures about how they built this, but I think it's always quite nice to sort of explain that a little bit. There would have been benches all the way around. This is dug by hand, and you'll see pictures as we go around. So they dug it down, pickaxes and shovels, and then these precast reinforced concrete sections were dropped in, and again, as I say, sort of halfway around, there's sort of quite clear pictures of that. Cement,
chalk.
It's all dug into chalk, and then the top was backfilled. They put the sort of the lid on, backfilled it, and then put the tarmac over the top.
Wow.
I mean, at this school, this is one of 3 at this school, and this, these were being built in the late 1930s because the then Prime Minister was very worried about aerial bombing. So it's a huge. I always think it's a huge investment of energy, money, and materials. I mean, this. You sort of think this is just for the children of this school, and look at the size of it, it's amazing. So nothing's really happened to this since it was built, other than it was used during the war, then it was shut. But so really it is as it was. There would have been, as we go around, a wooden sort of raised duckboard flooring, very simple, and there would have been benches all around the edge. So this entrance we built a couple of years ago. But this originally would have been there's a manhole cover just at this entrance. So built in a figure of 8. I always imagined the first time I came in here it would be like one massive big room. But obviously it makes sense that it's tunnels. Probably easier to build, stronger, and of course, having lots of corners. Is that if one side was bombed, that would, kill the people in this bit, but it wouldn't. The blast wouldn't go around the corner. And as you'll see, it starts getting into lots of little wiggly passageways, and I think that was the part of the design. So built over the summer holidays in 1939, and then we come into the first little theme. We start with the children with air raid shelters, but of course, if you were at the school, this school site was shared with Balfour up the road, because Balfour School was shut during the war and it became a military hospital. So the children did half days here, but often, and we've built a few, if you come forward a little bit, we built a few reconstructions in the little alcoves and storage areas. And so in this first one, we've got an Anderson shelter. Of course, usually an Anderson shelter would have been in your garden, but our senior volunteers who are here today, Alan and David, they both say people didn't really like using the Anderson shelters because they were cold and wet outside, but they remember sleeping in the Morrison shelter, which is the reinforced box in the picture. And they said they both slept with their mum and their brothers in the Morrison shelter every night during the war. There we go. Right, as we go around, we've got a few short little films, and this first one includes another one of our volunteers. Do you want to come forward at the back, just so?
I'm all right. I'm just because I've been before. But
Please come forward just so that you can see.
Yeah.
And feel free to take pictures.
I was 7. My brother was 5 when war was declared. We lived in Thornton Heath, and we arrived at the school with our parents to join all of the children that were going to be evacuated. And when we arrived at Brighton station, we were in a state of high excitement, really, because a long train journey with all our friends and children we knew. At Brighton station, we were ushered onto double-decker green buses, which of course we'd never seen before, and we went off on what seemed quite a long journey. They called the children from the bus, took them, introduced them to the person in the house, and we were just left there.
So here we have Barry, who's wasn't here today, but he comes and visits the project down 92. And when the children visit, typically it's year 5 and year 6, they get the first-hand stories from people like Barry. Of course, he came down from London. Any ideas when they, on the train, any ideas when they opened? So he came into Brighton Station, which is here. Any ideas when they opened Brighton Station?
Originally?
What year?
1890.
Yeah, 41. Very close, yeah. 1841.
Yeah.
So here we are, it's 98 years in.
Yeah.
But here's the next question. What sort of trains do they have? Steam trains?
Yeah.
Actually, it was electric trains into Brighton. They electrified the line in 1932. So there's Barry arriving from East Croydon, which is, let's say, an hour away, and it would have been an hour for him. So it's not that far from where he was. If you would like to just... And then you see the pictures of course, the children arrived at Brighton, met by teachers, and allocated to stay with different families. And these letters are Barry talking to his parents. And of course, a lot of the evacuated children went back home before the bombing really started, because at the beginning of the war there was a period of the Phony War when there wasn't really much bombing. So a lot of the children actually went back. And certainly later in the war, children from Brighton evacuated out of Brighton when they felt that Brighton was getting a lot of bombing. And I know that some of them went to Stoke, but there isn't really much of a trail there. It's difficult to track them down. But there's a couple of places where we get the information. The history teacher in the late 90s invited lots of ex-pupils who were here during the war, and the children interviewed them, and they put the anecdotes in the book, which we've got upstairs.
Brilliant.
But it's that's a really useful way. But she tried to track down the evacuees from Brighton who went to Stoke, and she couldn't get anything. So here we go.
Wow.
My grandfather had this typical wartime moustache. He used to have this. He used to have one of those, like a, and he used to make it. He used to wear it when I was asleep.
My granddad always had a gold pocket watch into the waistcoat.
Yeah, I've got my grandfather's silver. It's a broken one. There were two of them. False cereals were false.
Yes.
I just like old things. Now thinking, what am I going to do with it?
Feel free to step in, have a look.
So many of them.
So here's
So many things of I'm
Get rid of all this stuff. The house and the shop.
Of course, we've done a little reconstruction here. Please come forward, and you can step into the room. But so we've made a little bedroom scene, but there wouldn't have been a bedroom originally in a school air raid shelter. This would have been one of the entrances, a bricked up wall at the back. This would have been one of the 2 staircase entrances in. And at the beginning of the war, so we got the logbook, which was the book on the TV screen, which the head teacher would write in every day. So we got some really good first-hand information about when it was used, how it was used. But so this was built for 300 children, and as I say, there would have been benches all the way around, and they could get the whole school in 3 minutes at the beginning of the war, and they got it down to 1 minute. But this would have been one of the 2 entrances for the coming in here. So steps behind here. So that the new one we just dug it in that corner. got a phone with a torch on.
Yes.
Got a torch. I've got it here. If you step into this bit,
It's a shame that they didn't get the person, or did they do it on purpose? Was it gone? The person's faces are there and then lift up with the lights on purpose.
No, I don't think so, because his arms.
so here we're in the, so you can see it's what we're about, I don't know, 70 centimetres deep. And that metal cover is accent, you know, is in the middle of the playground. And here we've got this short span of the lots of turns, you know. Yes. And then got the original side view, you know, no animals, no spitting, take your rubbish.
Yeah, take your rubbish.
Strangely with the animals, I mean, they actually, I believe in the wartime they killed a lot of the animals because eating too much food, I guess. I've worked out how to work my torch. Right, okay. Learning every day, learn something new. And here you can see the duckboard flooring as it would have been, you know, slightly raised up. And when you come back to this corridor, you might just notice that the floor is Barry, they got married, all of their children are now retired. And she comes back as an ambassador, so she's in her early 90s. And this is her just talking about what it was like to sit on these benches during the war.
You would hear the siren, that could be heard anywhere, and you knew that if the siren went, you stopped what you were doing and followed instructions. Usually it was a case of filing out in an orderly fashion and remembering to take your gas mask with you. Just walked quickly, but no running, to wherever the shelters were. And when you got into the shelters, you sat down on the benches at the side. The lighting was not good enough that you could do any reading. Of course, you had to leave your classroom quickly. There wasn't really time to pick up other things to take with you. So the sort of things you could do down in the shelters was to practice tables, times tables. You could do some spellings. Teachers would read stories to you. And you could sing, and you just waited until the all clear went, and then you left the shelter, in an orderly manner.
So this is the school.
This was a training film that was filmed in, I think it's Knoll School in Hove.
Oh, in Hull. So lovely.
And I believe that was close to the old Goldstone ground.
Here we go. Air raid practice at North School, filmed by Mr.
So filmed in colour. So I mean, it's slightly unusual. I mean, it obviously invented colour film, but it wasn't widespread. But again, it just sort of shows a bit about the investment.
Yeah, they might have colourised after.
I don't think that's been colourised. That's come from.
That's amazing. Get the
Interesting.
Yeah.
The logbook.
Yeah. So this is in the keep. And to get access to it, I had to, go through a few hoops because of the safeguarding things. But yeah, it's amazing. It's the original book, and in fact, as you come round this corner, there's a couple of entries in the logbook just to give you an idea of the language. And so, Miss Reno was the head teacher during the war, and there were pretty much entries for every day. A lot of it's information about day-to-day stuff, but.
I guess you probably have to get
Excuse me, sir.
perspective regularly.
Excuse me.
This I think a lot of it's covered off in the fire inspection, and of course because it's on the school site, it's included in the premises.
Excuse me. Is that original graffiti there from the kids?
I don't know. But what I would say is that there's been lots of iterations. Who knows? So upstairs, this is slightly. I mentioned the bomb map. This has come from the Brighton Hove Museum. The one upstairs goes all the way to the front, and we talk about the Odeon is marked on there, as is the viaduct. Where would the viaduct be? It's London Road. Yeah, here, where that's quite a famous, which interestingly doesn't have its explosion. But I think the one with the viaduct, the bomb bounced through a house.
Oh, right.
It was one of the houses on. Where is it? I think it was here actually. It bounced through the house. You can still see it, and went out the back and took out one of the pillars. And just watch your heads going into here. This is just a slightly lower frame than anywhere else. So this is just a little bombing simulation, a little short. Please come and sit down. If you sit in between the alcoves, it's a good position.
In between.
Third of the pint. Funny that it's now
Have you been to New Haven Fort? They do an air raid simulation there as well, but they're closed this year.
Oh, they?
Yeah, they're doing like repairs and they've had some money, which is a shame because you've got June the 8th coming up with the D-Day 80th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, soldiers going from New Haven. My father went to New Haven to Salt Beach.
Kind enough to start the
Yeah.
film with the buttons.
It's a shame. Oh.
Okay, well done everyone. You made it down here in record time. I'm really proud of each and every one of you. Please move up close. I know it's very cramped in here, but we won't be in here long. I'm sure it's just a normal raid. If you need the toilet's at the back, but let's try and hold on because I'm sure we won't be down here too long. If you listen carefully, can you hear just in the distance? They're coming closer, but don't worry, they're just flying over. They'll not be near us, so everything will be okay. Don't panic. They're far away. Don't worry about anything. If you're worried about any of your friends or family members, they'll all be safe in the air raid shelter. Remember, all your teachers are like me. They're air raid wardens, and they're working all over Brighton, and other people are working all over Brighton to keep your family members safe. And they're in shelters like these. If you think how thick the walls are, and how deep we are underground, it's going to totally protect us. That was very close, but don't worry. Everything is okay. Remember what I said about the thickness of walls and how your family are safe and secure. Please don't panic. If you listen carefully, I think it was just one. That's okay, it's past. Don't panic. Well done, everyone. I'm really, really proud of you. You're totally safe.
I would like us all to recognise the loyalty to duty of the staff here at Downs Junior School following 6 long years of war. Hours on end have been spent crowded into these cold, damp trenches, but all the teachers remained cheerful and helpful so that the children were happy and unafraid.
So this little area where when we guide with the children, we're talking about Brighton sort of becoming fortified in preparation for an invasion. So there's a big worry that the Germans were going to do a sea invasion. So they prepared they shut the bridges, the beaches even. So the beaches, Alan, who's upstairs, would say as a child he couldn't go to the beach, he couldn't even get anywhere close enough to even see the beach. So after the war, there was a big kind of Brighton. It was like, well, we went to the beach, and you can see the pier cut. And on that first picture, which is a German aerial picture of Brighton, it shows you the detail. It's a marked up map of Brighton, showing the, it's very clearly visible all the streets and so on, but also marked in some of the things like the piers being cut. So clearly, the Germans had a very extensive information about the UK was gathered during the pre-war, and I know that there were lots of German cyclists, tourists, I believe in the 30s, taking lots of pictures. But I think on the other side, the Allies were doing exactly the same in Europe, and even gathering holiday pictures and postcards. Of course, Brighton did sustain about 2,000 bombs, and if your house did get blown up, depending on the level of the destruction, it would be repaired, and that would be paid for out of the loans, the bank-based loans that were taken out. Here's a question for you. A couple of people know the date, but when was the last payment made to the Americans to clear off the Lebanese loans? 89. Exactly. I believe it was 2016. So here we are, full generations after the war, it's still going on. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's been to Mon Garden, but when they reconfigured the garden, they found an unexploded bomb there. And I asked them how they dealt with it, and they said, just these 2 young blokes turned up with a load of sandbags and piled all the sand on, blew it up. And I was like, any damage? And he said, well, everything was covered in sand. So one of the things I always say to the kids, we've got a picture of a Spitfire, obviously iconic plane, and then we've got the Hurricane here. And I always challenge them to tell me what the principal difference is between the planes.
The shape of wings.
Wings, okay. Something more fundamental.
12 and body skin, I should have thought.
Exactly. Back of the Hurricane wood with the canvas stretched over, and I believe it was very sort of early strengthened with glue, lots of layers like the more modern, what would you call it, fiberglass sort of style. So very strong, very light. And of course the Hurricanes had better guns, more of them built. They weren't perhaps as fast and as agile as the Spitfires, but shot more in the air